Well, it wasn't so long ago that a college education was a sure way to increase your income and live a better life. But of course, the cost of college and a changing jobs market has altered the equation just a bit. We continue our discussion about education in America with psychologist Dr. Bart Rossi. Also joining us as well are Stephen Sirot and Janet Loren, who are both from the College Benefits Research Group. Is college for everyone? We've heard this again and again. If you're a plumber or an electrician, you can make theoretically a six-figure salary and you don't have all that debt. Is it for everyone?
Oh, definitely not. It definitely helps for the overwhelming majority of people. But it's definitely not the only path. And sometimes people find out that college is right for them after they've gone into a trade or done service.
So you have kids that come back at the age of 21, 22 and say, you know, I've done this, but really I do want to go to college.
Absolutely. Sometimes a student will go to a college, transfer, or drop out of that college, wait, work, find it, and then say, you know, I know what I want now. I'm going to go back. And we help students transfer all the time.
Dr. Rossi, from a psychological standpoint, is that a good thing?
Well, I think college really helps kids learn how to think. Maybe they become an engineer, maybe they become a doctor, but college really helps people look at the world in a different way.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking. So yes, I think it is important, but it is not for everybody. It really isn't. And some people do develop differently. Maybe some folks can go into a trade and yet still become well-rounded and fine individuals in many respects.
But you get an 18-year-old, you know, and now he's looking, or she's looking at 4 years of college, and they say, you know what, I want to take a break. You know, I don't think college is right for me. They're probably being driven along by their parents who say, no, you must go to college. You'll have a better life if you go. Do you get into a situation where you have to tell the parents, hey, your kid is not college material? Maybe he should take, or she should take a gap year or do something else?
We do, but
well, that must be an uncomfortable conversation.
It's really about where the student is going to be the most successful.
Right.
So that's what we talk about with the parent. They're going to be successful in a place where, one, their strengths are showing, one, that they like, and an area that they're interested in. So if you present it that way, parents are a little bit more interested in, oh, they're going to succeed here. They might not succeed here, but if we try this route might be right for this student.
But this is a real partnership with our parents, because overwhelmingly we find they know their students better than anybody. But there's a whole world of, you know, what they don't know. So we want to really work together with them. If they have thoughts that my son or daughter will be most successful on this path, then we'll say, okay, but think of it, you know, if in this path this is what would happen, maybe this is a better option for them. So it's trying to really give them better options.
But you know, success is not just getting your degree in engineering at a top school and then becoming a great engineer. Maybe you could say that's success, but what happens if the person isn't really that happy with themselves? Maybe they could have gone to a better school for them. Socially, psychologically, emotionally, they might have developed to be a different type of person. So I think what we're talking about here is the right choice is really very important. It has to be a well-rounded decision, and I think it's really more important, again, with the social psychological. And if I could bring up one more point, because I'd like them to comment on the community college situation in terms of the finances. Because I did a lot of evaluations for public safety positions, officers. And a lot of these particular individuals went to community college for 2 years, and then they would graduate from Rutgers or some other schools. And I have to say, these folks were very talented. I was impressed with them. They didn't go right to Harvard or Yale, you know, but I have to say they were fine people.
Well, part of the reason might be that there is not as much debt, so they're happy. Sorry about that.
No, that's right. No, you know, you make a very good point. If you have what you like to call these path students who have, is it good that they go to 2-year colleges, a community college, find out which way they're going, save their parents a little money? Because when you look at a resume, it says I graduated from Rutgers or I graduated from Columbia. It doesn't say you spent the first 2 years at Middlesex County Community College. Am I right? So do you recommend that as well?
Absolutely. That can be one option for the student if the student feels that way. We like with community college for the student to be directed. Again, same thing with the 4-year colleges. We want our students to go in with a plan. Not just go in and take courses. We want them to go in with a plan so that they have an idea of where they're going. If they choose to change, that's okay. but they have a long-term plan of what they're looking at.
Now, I've come across, being a television lawyer, friends over the years who said, you know what, I always wanted to be a radio disc jockey or a TV, but why did you become a lawyer? Well, my dad was a lawyer, and I had to keep it in the family. How many people just, as an 18-year-old kid, go into the business that the parent is in because they think they're supposed to, and then realize later in life that maybe they weren't fit for it, and they're really unhappy? How many?
I don't think as many today as it used to be. There's more of an exploration, but it might be what their parents have done, or maybe people that they've kind of locked onto. They look at a lawyer and say, well, I could do really well doing that because I never lose an argument.
Right.
How much arguing does a lawyer actually do? Very little. They're in an office,
right,
usually, negotiating, doing a ton of writing, a ton of phone work. If they're a people person, that's probably not the best job for them. So it's that they have a fantasy of what their parents do or what they might like to do, and it's not really realistic.
And a parent would encourage that as well. What mom and dad wouldn't like to say, hey, my son is a lawyer or a doctor as well.
Right.
And Dr. Bart, from a psychological standpoint, I'm sure you've seen people in your practice over the years who are absolutely miserable in what they do, and they don't know how to change at this age because they have
That's
a wife,
right.
3 kids, and they can't get out of it.
That's right. And I think to your point, your initial question was really right on the mark, because I think a lot of people, if you ask them what they would do if they had to do their life over again, they would go into a different field.
Yeah.
Like how many folks want to stay where they are? I'm happy being a lawyer, I would do it again. I think a lot of them would do something else. Maybe some people that even got into medicine or whatever. They really want to do something else with their life. So I think this whole thing about the college and the social aspect and everything that you're trying to look at when you measure these kids is so important. And I'm actually really impressed that you're doing that.
Yeah.
One of the things we really talk about is careers and what those careers entail and what majors lead to those careers and what the skills are for that particular career. I had a student come in and she wanted to be a forensic scientist, and she told me, this is what I want, this is what I want. So I showed her the curriculum of forensic science, and she says, oh my goodness, there's a lot of science here.
She thought it was CSI Miami.
So until you bring that reality to them, they really don't know.
You know, I love that commercial for the retirement company and investment company. What would you do if you could do whatever you want at the age of 65? And I always say, why are you waiting till the age of 65? Why didn't you do that at 25? Why would you wait that long? And I think a lot of people get on that path and then they get stuck in what they do. So let's discuss managing the student loan, because this is a big issue now. Kids are leaving college and moving back into their parents' basement with maybe $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 in debt. Jobs are not as readily available, good jobs at least anymore, to pay it off. You must see that coming down the road and must advise kids both on a psychological standpoint and also with your company as well that, you know, it's not going to be easy to pay off $400 a month if you're working a retail job trying to find your way. How do you manage this when you get out of college? How do you do that?
I mean, you try to be proactive rather than reactive, which is a big part of why our business is successful. I know many families, when they first come to us, they're thinking, well, whatever the fee is for our company, will they save us more than it costs us?
Right.
That's one, and usually it's certainly an investment that pays for itself many times over. But it's really about being proactive, looking at the value of the education, where it can lead, into what fields, and making sure that you're looking at it like an investment. Right? If you're going to come out and do physical therapy,
right,
well, it's very hard to come out and find a job paying more than $40,000 or $45,000 a year for
I've
that,
seen that.
which is fine. But if you got $250,000 of debt for that degree, there's something that's going to not work there.
Well, listen, your service is fabulous, because I've been saying this for years, quite frankly. I see a lot of, when I was in college, kids studying really hard and getting a lot of debt, and I would say, what are you doing when you get out? Well, I'm going to be a social worker. And even as a young kid, I'm thinking, how are you going to pay off your loans? You know, you didn't think this through in the beginning. Maybe you should have gone to a community college or taken a course, whatever the case may be. But most kids don't have or parents have the $5,000 or $6,000 to get folks like you to think that they're sort of flying blind for the most part and hoping it'll end up well in the end. And that's really not a way to do it. And we go back to you, Dr.
Right.
Rossi, because I'm sure you see kids in their teens and they really don't know what the heck is going on, and they probably don't know until they're 30.
Well, that's true, and I think it's important for these kids when they get out of school, just as we're talking here now, to have a mental set in terms of how they're going to, adjust and what they're going to do to pay this debt off. And again, if they wanted to be into physical therapy or they want to be a social worker, maybe they need another job or maybe they need another way of financing this debt. But it has to be a commitment, a real determination to meet that obligation. And I think that a lot of times they get out of school, they want to go in a particular direction, but they don't have the right thinking.
Well, let's make a point here before we start, since we're talking about financing. You recommend, I'm sure, that parents do not co-sign a student loan. Am I correct?
Oh, I mean, there's only a small amount of loans that the student could take out in their own name.
Right.
That's guaranteed. So if
Now, the parent is on the hook at that point, and if the kid comes out and he can't pay or she can't pay that.
any of those plus loans, which are parent loan for undergraduate
So how do you get
students,
around that? What if a parent says, look, I'm not going to co-sign a loan. I'm not going to put my name on it. I'm approaching 60, 70 years old, and I may not have the time to pay this off. I don't want that debt in my retirement.
Then you have to examine whatever the financial parameters are. You have to work within those to try to find the best options that you can. And if the parents can't pay and they won't co-sign,
Right.
then the choices are more limited. But there's a certain amount that a student could get in their own name, around $30,000 or
Right.
so over 4 years, and that's without qualifying with credit. If they work, then maybe they could qualify for some more. So at that point, maybe a community college and getting their associate's degree, and that would allow them to transfer to a state
Well,
school without losing time, could be a very affordable way for them to do
Well,
it.
John, how many grants are out there that are untapped every single year? There's all sorts of grants that I'm told for lots of ethnicities, for lots of majors and so on. How many how many times is that money just lost because nobody taps into it?
That happens a lot, but there are a lot of different scholarships and grants out there. But as Stephen always talks about, most of the money comes from the colleges.
Right.
So that's where you want to focus.
Focus on the college giving you a break on the tuition.
About 98% of all the aid given
Right.
is given through the colleges. So, that Elks Club scholarship or things like that, they're out there. And we
Right.
certainly encourage our students and families to look for those and apply for those. They're extremely competitive, and they're a very small percentage of the overall aid. So it's
Right.
more important to go for where the real money is coming from.
the college.
That's from the colleges and from the
Well,
government.
here's a silly question. If the tuition is $60,000 a year, and they're going to give you a $5,000 grant, or just about everybody's going to get it, why don't they start at $55,000 a year and not give out any grants? Or they need to show that they're giving money back to you to encourage you to?
Well, that's part of it. Every merit award that you get
Right.
comes with an academic requirement. So that's nice motivation if you don't get a 3.0 or
Right,
a
right.
3.5, And it seems the bigger award they give, the higher the academic expectation. But it also allows them, like I had mentioned, to create a tuition process that allows them to have a pool of money
Right.
to manage who they give a break to.
All right, we've got 1 minute left. Do you see this getting better? Am I silly in asking that the colleges will come around eventually and say, hey, we priced ourselves in a lot of ways out of the market, or will it just keep going higher?
We haven't seen much of a slowdown. There are certain signs of encouragement,
Right.
But and even federal loans, which basically you used to just sign your name
Right.
and you could qualify. They're becoming tougher to qualify for because the government's now starting to worry that they're not going to be able to get paid back.
That
so
could be the
it's
next
becoming tougher.
on a financial end. That could be the next bubble to burst, or the government having to step in and write a check.
Also, I think of the top 1%. There's a lot of people out there that are in the 1%, and they're making over $1 million a year. I mean, it means to me that maybe colleges will continue to go up, and everybody else who's not in the 1% is going to pay
Good point.
a real serious price for that.
And you're going to stick around for the next segment because we're going to be talking about politics, so that should be very... I want to thank you, Janet, for stopping by, and
Thank you
also
for having me.
Stephen Sirot from your group. We appreciate your expertise as a lot of kids get ready to go back to college right now. Okay, when we return, the circus that has become the race for the White House will have the very latest on presidential campaign politics when Fresh Outlook continues.